Owen Harlan stood in his kitchen doorway at 2:47 a.m., watching his wife of 19 years hugging his son's best friend with the hunger of a woman half her age. The coffee mug in his hand didn't shatter when it hit the floor. It just cracked, like everything else in his life was about to. 3 hours earlier, the October storm had knocked out the power at their lake cabin. Owen had been lying awake listening to the rain hammer the tin roof when he heard voices downstairs. His first thought was burglars. His second thought, as he crept down the narrow stairs with a flashlight, was that Tyler and Kieran were probably raiding the fridge after their late-night fishing trip. He was wrong on both counts. In the pale beam of his flashlight, Owen saw his 39-year-old wife Marlene pressed against the kitchen counter, her scrubs hiked up around her waist. 18-year-old Kieran Rowe's hands tangled in her auburn hair. Kieran's phone was propped against the coffee maker, red recording light blinking like a malevolent eye. "Jesus Christ!" Owen whispered. They sprang apart. Marlene's face went white in the flashlight beam. Kieran stumbled backward, fumbling with his belt, his golden boy confidence evaporating like steam. "Owen, I can explain," Marlene started. "Get out!" Owen's voice was deadly quiet. After 20 years of marriage, Marlene knew that tone meant the discussion was over. "Both of you, now." "Dad?" Tyler appeared at the top of the stairs, rubbing sleep from his eyes. 17 years old, quarterback build like his father, but with his mother's sharp green eyes. What's wrong? Owen looked up at his son, then back at his wife and Kieran. How do you explain that the two people Tyler trusted most in the world had just blown up his entire life? "Pack your stuff," Owen told Kieran. "Your parents can pick you up at the main road." Kieran grabbed his phone and shoved it in his pocket. "Mr. Harlan, this isn't... Don't!" Owen stepped closer, and despite being 41 with grease permanently embedded under his fingernails, he still had the frame of the college linebacker he'd once been. "Don't you dare try to explain anything to me." The storm outside seemed to intensify, as if nature itself was responding to the chaos brewing inside the cabin. Tyler descended the stairs slowly, his eyes moving between his parents and his best friend, trying to piece together what he'd missed. "Mom!" Tyler's voice cracked. "What's going on?" Marlene smoothed down her scrubs with shaking hands. Even disheveled, she was still beautiful. The kind of woman who turned heads at the grocery store, who made other wives feel insecure at school functions. That beauty had been Owen's pride for 19 years. Now, it felt like a curse. "Your mother and I need to talk," Owen said. "Kieran needs to leave." "I'm not going anywhere in this storm," Kieran said, some of his teenage bravado returning. "The roads are flooding." Owen's laugh was bitter. "You should have thought of that before you decided to fuck my wife in my kitchen." Tyler's sharp intake of breath was audible over the thunder. "What?" The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Owen watched his son's face crumble as understanding dawned. Tyler had worshipped Kieran since they were kids, the star quarterback, the charming golden boy who could make teachers laugh and parents trust him with their daughters. The betrayal was written across Tyler's features in real time. "Tyler, baby, it's not what it looks like," Marlene said, reaching for her son. Tyler jerked away from her touch. "It's not what it looks like. I may be 17, but I'm not blind, Mom." Owen felt something cold and final settle in his chest. The family he'd spent 19 years building was dissolving in real time. Tomorrow was supposed to be their last day at the cabin before school started again. They'd planned to fish in the morning, maybe grill some burgers if the weather cleared. Simple pleasures, a normal family. But they weren't a normal family. Maybe they never had been. "You're walking to the road," Owen told Kieran. "Rain or no rain." "Dad," Tyler said quietly. "My phone's dead, but I can drive him." "No," Owen's voice cut through the storm. "He walks. And if I ever see him near you or this family again, it won't end with just walking." Kieran looked at Marlene, perhaps expecting her to defend him, to make this right somehow. But Marlene was staring at the floor, her face streaked with tears that somehow made her look even more guilty. "Fine," Kieran said. He grabbed his jacket from the chair and headed for the door. "This is fucked up, Mr. Harlan." "You don't understand." "I understand plenty." Owen followed him to the door. "I understand that you're 18 and my wife is 39. I understand that you're my son's best friend. I understand that you brought your phone down here to record it." Kieran's face went pale. He'd forgotten about the phone, about the evidence of his own stupidity. "I wasn't... Get out of my house." Owen opened the door and the storm rushed in like an angry ghost. Rain lashed the porch and the wind bent the pine trees at impossible angles. It was a miserable night to be walking anywhere, let alone 3 miles to the main road. Kieran looked back once, his eyes finding Tyler. Ty, I'm sorry, man. I'm really sorry. Tyler didn't respond. He was staring at his mother with the kind of disgust that cuts deeper than any scream. The door slammed shut, leaving the three of them in the flashlight-lit kitchen. Outside, they could hear Kieran's footsteps on the gravel. Then the sound of him crashing through the underbrush as he took the shortcut through the woods. "Owen," Marlene said, her voice small. "Can we please talk about this?" "Talk about what?" Owen set the flashlight on the counter, casting wild shadows on the cabin walls. "Talk about how you've been screwing my son's best friend? Talk about how long this has been going on? Talk about what other lies I've been living with?" "It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Marlene?" She was crying now, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "I don't know what happened. I've been so lonely and you're always at the shop, and Kieran was just... He made me feel young again." Tyler made a sound like he'd been punched. "Jesus, Mom, he's my age." "I know that." Marlene's voice rose, defensive now. "I know how it looks, but feelings don't follow rules, Tyler. Sometimes you can't help who you..." "Stop." Owen held up a hand. "Just stop talking." The power flickered back on, harsh overhead light replacing the intimate glow of the flashlight. In the sudden brightness, they all looked pale and guilty, like criminals caught in a spotlight. Owen walked to the window and looked out at the storm. Kieran's headlight was already disappearing down the dirt road. Someone had picked him up. Probably his parents, wondering why their golden boy was walking through a thunderstorm at 3 in the morning. By tomorrow, the whole town would know. Oak Ridge was small enough that secrets lasted about as long as morning dew. By Monday, Tyler would be walking into school knowing that everyone had heard about his mother and his best friend. "Pack your stuff," Owen said without turning around. "We're leaving in the morning." "Owen, please, pack your stuff, Marlene." The drive home took 2 hours in silence. Tyler sat in the passenger seat staring out the window at the gray October landscape. Marlene was in the back, occasionally sniffling but smart enough not to try talking again. Owen's hands were steady on the wheel, but his mind was racing. 19 years of marriage. 19 years of thinking he knew his wife, of trusting her with their son, their home, their life. How long had this been going on? How many other times had she made him look like a fool? They reached Oak Ridge as the sun was coming up, the storm having blown through overnight. Their neighborhood looked exactly the same. Neat lawns, American flags, the Hendersons' dog barking at nothing from behind their chain-link fence. Normal suburban life continuing as if Owen's world hadn't just ended. He pulled into their driveway and sat there for a moment, looking at the house he'd bought when Tyler was born. The mortgage was almost paid off. The garage door needed painting, and the front steps had a loose board he kept meaning to fix. Small problems that had seemed important yesterday. "Dad?" Tyler's voice was hoarse. "What happens now?" Owen looked at his son, really looked at him. Tyler had inherited Owen's solid build and work ethic, but he had Marlene's quick intelligence and social ease. He was supposed to graduate in the spring, maybe get a football scholarship like Kieran had been counting on. Now his senior year was going to be a nightmare. "I don't know, son." That was Monday. By Wednesday, Owen knew exactly what was going to happen, and it was worse than he'd imagined. The first video showed up on Tyler's phone during lunch. Someone had forwarded it from Kieran, who'd apparently shared his little recording with Milo Dane and Travis Beck, 2 linemen on the football team who thought with their fists and talked with their mouths. Tyler came home that afternoon with a split lip and murder in his eyes. "They're calling her Cougar Marlene," Tyler said, throwing his backpack against the wall. "They're asking me if I need dating tips from my mom." Owen looked up from the engine he'd been rebuilding in the garage. His son's face was flushed with humiliation and rage, and Owen felt something cold and sharp settle in his stomach. "Who hit you?" "Milo, but Travis was there and half the team was watching. Coach sent me home." Owen set down his wrench. "What did you do to Milo?" "Broke his nose." Tyler's grin was grim. "Figured if I'm going to be the joke of the school, I might as well earn it." That evening, Owen called Principal Lane. Roger Lane had been running Oak Ridge High for 15 years, and he'd seen enough small-town drama to know when a situation was about to explode. "Owen, I'm sorry about all this," Lane said, "but fighting isn't going to solve anything. We need to keep the boys separated until this blows over." "How long do you think it takes for something like this to blow over, Roger?" There was a pause. "I don't know. But Kieran's parents are talking about transferring him to County High for the rest of the year. That might help." "Might help Kieran. What about Tyler?" "Tyler's a good kid. This will pass. But Owen knew it wouldn't pass. Not in a town like Oak Ridge, where the same families had been intermarrying for generations and everyone knew everyone else's business. Tyler would carry this shame until graduation, maybe longer. That night, Owen found Marlene in their bedroom packing clothes into a suitcase. "Where are you going?" She didn't look up. "My sister's in Millerville. I need some space to think." "Space to think about what?" "About us. About what I want." Owen sat on the edge of the bed they'd shared for 19 years. "What you want? Marlene, you just destroyed our family. You humiliated our son. There is no us to think about." She stopped packing and looked at him. Even with red eyes and no makeup, she was still beautiful. It made Owen sick. "I made a mistake," she said. "A terrible mistake. But Owen, we haven't been happy for years. You know that. So you decided to fuck a teenager? Don't be crude. Don't be crude." Owen stood up. "You recorded yourself having sex with our son's best friend, and you're worried about me being crude? I didn't know he was recording it. But you knew he was 18. You knew he was Tyler's friend. You knew you were married." Marlene zipped the suitcase closed. "I'm going to stay with Linda for a while. We can talk when things calm down." "Things aren't going to calm down, Marlene. Tyler's life is ruined. Mine is ruined. And you want to run away and think about what you want?" She picked up the suitcase. "I can't handle this right now, Owen. I can't handle the way you're looking at me, the way Tyler won't even speak to me. I need time." "Time for what?" "To figure out who I am." Owen watched his wife walk out of their bedroom, down the stairs, and out the front door. She didn't say goodbye to Tyler, who was in his room with the music loud enough to shake the walls. At 39 years old, Marlene Harlan was going through her midlife crisis. At 41, Owen was picking up the pieces. The second video arrived on Thursday. This one didn't come from Kieran. This one was security footage from the high school, grainy black and white, showing Marlene in the supply closet with Willis Grady, the night janitor. The timestamp was from 3 weeks ago. Tyler found it in his locker, printed out and folded like a note. He brought it home without saying a word, just laid it on the kitchen table where Owen was eating a sandwich. Owen stared at the image for a long time. Willis Grady was 54 years old, divorced, and so forgettable that Owen had to think for a moment to place the name. He was the guy who mopped the floors and emptied the trash, invisible to everyone except, apparently, Marlene. "How many?" Tyler asked. "How many what?" "How many guys, Dad? How many times did she make us look like idiots?" Owen didn't have an answer. He was starting to realize he didn't know his wife at all. That night, Owen drove to Millerville. Linda's house was a small ranch on the outskirts of town with a porch light that flickered and a yard full of garden gnomes. Owen had never liked Linda. She was divorced twice and had a way of making married people feel like suckers. Marlene's Honda was in the driveway. Owen knocked on the door. Linda answered, wearing a bathrobe and a defensive expression. "She doesn't want to see you, Owen. I don't care what she wants." Marlene appeared behind her sister, looking smaller somehow. "Owen, what are you doing here?" "We need to talk. I told you I need time." "Willis Grady." The name hit her like a slap. Her face went white, and she stepped back into the house. "I don't know what you mean." Owen held up the printed security footage. "This is what I mean. So let me ask you again. How many, Marlene? How many times did you cheat on me? How many people in this town are laughing at me behind my back?" Linda retreated into the kitchen, smart enough to sense the violence in the air. Marlene wrapped her arms around herself like a shield. "It wasn't like that with Willis. It was just once. I was working late and he was so lonely and I felt sorry for him." "You felt sorry for him, so you had sex with him in a supply closet?" "It wasn't planned. It just happened. Like with Kieran, just happened?" Marlene started crying again. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Everyone expects me to be perfect. The perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect school nurse. Sometimes I just want to feel like a woman instead of a role." "So you decided to be the town 304 instead?" She slapped him. The sound cracked through the small living room like a gunshot. Owen touched his cheek, feeling the sting. "Feel better? Get out, Owen. I'm filing for divorce." "Fine. I'm taking Tyler." "You can't do that. Watch me." Owen headed for the door. "And Marlene, when you're done feeling sorry for yourself, you might want to think about Tyler. Because after this week, he's going to need at least one parent who isn't a complete fucking disaster." Owen drove home through the October darkness, his cheeks still burning from the slap. The radio was playing some country song about heartbreak and whiskey, but Owen turned it off. He didn't need music to tell him his life was falling apart. Back home, Tyler was in the kitchen, making a sandwich with mechanical precision. He looked up when Owen walked in. "How'd it go?" "About like you'd expect." Tyler nodded and went back to his sandwich. At 17, he was handling this better than Owen was. Maybe that was the problem. Tyler had inherited his mother's ability to adapt, to survive. Owen was just trying to hold on. "Dad?" "Yeah? Are you going to be okay?" Owen looked at his son, this kid who was asking if his father would be okay while his own life was being destroyed by teenage bullies and viral videos. Tyler was stronger than Owen had ever been at that age. "I'll be fine, son. We both will." But Owen wasn't sure he believed it. Friday brought the lawyers. Owen sat in the office of Janet Morrison, the best divorce attorney in 3 counties, and laid out his case. The photos, the videos, the timeline of Marlene's affairs. Janet listened without judgment, taking notes on a yellow pad. "This is pretty clear-cut," she said when Owen finished. "Adultery, especially with evidence this conclusive, gives us significant leverage in the property division and custody arrangement. I want full custody of Tyler. That's reasonable. Has your wife shown any interest in fighting for custody?" Owen thought about Marlene's tearful exit, her need for space to think. "I don't think so." "Good, that simplifies things." Janet closed the folder. "Owen, I need to ask, is there any chance this could turn violent? Small towns, public humiliation, teenage boys involved, sometimes things escalate. I'm not going to hurt anyone. I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about the other parties involved. Kieran Rowe's family has money and influence. If this gets uglier, then it gets uglier." Janet studied Owen's face. After 30 years of divorce cases, she knew the look of a man who'd reached his limit. "Just be careful. The best revenge is living well, not getting even." Owen stood to leave. "Maybe, but sometimes getting even is the only way to start living well." That weekend, Owen and Tyler painted Tyler's room. It was a stupid normal activity that felt like defiance. They rolled primer over the football posters and team photos, covering up the reminders of a simpler time when Tyler's biggest worry was making varsity. "You know what the worst part is?" Tyler said, rolling paint over a photo of him and Kieran at last year's homecoming dance. "What's that?" "I trusted him. Kieran was like a brother to me. We were going to room together at State, maybe play on the same team. And now I can't even look at him without wanting to eliminate him." Owen set down his brush. "Tyler, you need to understand something. What your mother did, what Kieran did, that's on them, not on you. You didn't deserve this." "Tell that to everyone at school." "Fuck everyone at school." Tyler looked surprised. Owen rarely swore in front of him. "This town has been gossiping about other people's misery for 100 years, Owen continued. "In 6 months, they'll be talking about someone else's problems. But you'll still be Tyler Harlan. You'll still be smart and tough and decent. Don't let their bullcrap change who you are." They painted in silence for a while, covering up the past with fresh white paint. Monday morning brought a new humiliation. Owen was at the shop, trying to lose himself in the familiar rhythm of rebuilding an engine, when Roger Lane called. "Owen, we need to talk. Can you come to the school?" "What happened?" "Just, can you come?" "And bring Tyler." Owen found Tyler in the parking lot, sitting in his truck with a bloody nose and split knuckles. 3 police cars were parked by the main entrance, and a crowd of students was gathered around the flagpole, filming everything with their phones. "What happened?" "Kieran showed up." Tyler's voice was flat. "He wanted to apologize," he said. "Started talking about how he never meant for this to happen, how he was drunk and stupid. So I hit him." "Good." Tyler looked surprised. "Good. He had it coming." "Yeah, well, his parents don't see it that way." Owen helped Tyler out of the truck. "Are you hurt?" "Nah, but Kieran's going to need dental work." They walked into the school together, past the staring students and the whispered conversations. Owen felt like he was walking through a gauntlet, but Tyler held his head high. Principal Lane's office was crowded. Kieran sat in a chair by the window, his face swollen and his left eye nearly shut. His parents, Barbara and Tom Rowe, stood behind him like bodyguards. Barbara was a real estate agent who drove a BMW and thought her shit didn't stink. Tom owned 3 car dealerships and believed money could solve any problem. "Owen," Tom stood up, "we need to discuss this situation." "What situation is that, Tom?" "Your son attacked our boy." Owen looked at Kieran, who was holding an ice pack to his jaw. Looks like your boy survived. This isn't a joke, Barbara said. Kieran could press charges. He could, Owen agreed. Of course, then we'd have to explain why Kieran was at the school in the first place, since he's supposed to be transferring to County High. Principal Lane cleared his throat. Let's all calm down. Kieran came here to apologize and try to make things right. Tyler responded emotionally. Emotionally? Tyler spoke for the first time. He fucked my mother and recorded it. I think I showed remarkable restraint by only breaking his teeth. Tyler, Lane warned. No, let him talk, Owen said. Seems like everyone else has had their say. Tyler stood up, and Owen was struck by how much his son looked like him at that age. Tall, broad-shouldered, dangerous when cornered. You want to press charges, Kieran? Go ahead. But then I'll have to tell the police about the video you recorded in my family's cabin. The one you shared with your friends. The one of you having sex with a married woman. Tyler's voice was deadly calm. I'll have to explain how you've been coming to my house for years, eating my food, sleeping in my bed while you were planning to fuck my mother. Kieran's parents exchanged glances. Barbara's face had gone pale. That's enough, Tom said. Is it? Tyler stepped closer to Kieran. Because I've got more. I've got text messages going back months. I've got times and dates. I've got a whole timeline of how my best friend decided to destroy my family. How do you have text messages? Barbara asked. Tyler smiled, but there was no humor in it. Mom never changed her password. Same birthday she's used for everything since I was a kid. Owen felt a surge of pride mixed with worry. His son was turning into a man, but it was the kind of man that circumstances had forced him to become. Here's what's going to happen, Owen said. Tyler's going to finish his senior year here. Kieran's going to transfer to County High like you planned. And we're all going to pretend this conversation never happened. And if we don't agree? Tom asked. Then Tyler goes to the police with everything he found on his mother's phone. And trust me, Tom, your golden boy isn't going to look so golden when everyone finds out he likes to record his conquests. The room fell silent. Outside, the school bell rang, and students shuffled through the hallways, oblivious to the drama playing out in the principal's office. Finally, Kieran spoke. I'm sorry, Tyler. I really am. Tyler looked at his former best friend, this kid he'd shared everything with, trusted with his secrets, defended against bullies in middle school. Yeah, Tyler said. Me too. That afternoon, Owen got a call from Janet Morrison. I've got news about your wife. What kind of news? She's pregnant. Owen nearly dropped the phone. What? She filed a motion to delay the divorce proceedings, claims she's carrying your child and wants time to consider reconciliation. Owen sat down hard in his desk chair. That's impossible. You haven't been intimate recently. We haven't had sex in 4 months, maybe longer. Can you prove that? Owen thought about it. Separate bedrooms since July. Marlene's work schedule, his own late nights at the shop. Yeah, I think I can. Good, because if she's pregnant, and it's not yours, it's not mine, then we need to prove it. I'm going to request a paternity test. She'll fight it. Let her fight. Owen, if your wife is trying to use a pregnancy to save her marriage, and that pregnancy is the result of one of her affairs, it's going to destroy any credibility she has left. That night, Owen sat Tyler down and told him about his mother's pregnancy claim. Tyler's reaction was immediate and visceral. Jesus Christ, she's really trying to make this worse, isn't she? It's not your baby brother or sister, Tyler. You know that, right? Yeah, I know that. Tyler's voice was bitter. Question is, does she know who the father is? Owen had been wondering the same thing. Kieran? Willis? Someone else he didn't know about yet? Doesn't matter, Owen said. We'll figure it out. And then what? Then we move on with our lives. But Owen wasn't sure how they were supposed to move on from something like this. The paternity test results came back on a Thursday in November. Owen sat in Janet Morrison's office, holding the paper that confirmed what he already knew. The baby wasn't his. So what now? Owen asked. Now we finish this. Janet's smile was sharp. Your wife just handed us the keys to the kingdom. Adultery, pregnancy by another man, abandonment of the marital home. She's not going to get a dime. What about Tyler? Full custody. No question. Owen folded the paper and put it in his jacket pocket. How long? 6 weeks, maybe less. She can't fight this, Owen. She doesn't have a leg to stand on. That evening, Owen drove to Millerville one last time. Linda answered the door with her usual hostile expression. She's not here. Where is she? Trailer park off Route 9. Space 14. Owen found Marlene's new home easily enough. It was a single wide with a crooked porch and windows covered in plastic sheeting. Her Honda was parked next to a rusted pickup truck that probably hadn't run since the Clinton administration. Owen knocked on the thin door. When Marlene opened it, he barely recognized her. She'd lost weight, her hair was unwashed, and she was wearing a bathrobe at 4 in the afternoon. "Owen, we need to talk." She stepped aside to let him in. The trailer was cramped and smelled like cigarettes and desperation. Magazines and fast food containers covered every surface. "I got the paternity results," Owen said. Marlene's face crumpled. "Owen, I can explain." "Don't." Owen held up the paper. "Just don't. I don't want to hear about your feelings or your loneliness or how sorry you are. I want to know whose baby you're carrying." I'm not sure." "You're not sure?" "It could be Kieran's or Willis's or—" She trailed off. "Or whose, Marlene?" "There was someone else, just once, at the county fair." Owen stared at his wife, this woman he'd loved for 19 years, who'd given birth to his son, who'd shared his bed and his dreams and his fucking bank account. "Who?" "A vendor. I don't even know his name." Owen felt something break inside his chest. Not his heart. That had broken weeks ago. Something deeper. Something that would never heal. "Jesus, Marlene. I know how it sounds." "No, you don't. You have no idea how this sounds. You have no idea what you've done to Tyler, to me, to our family. I never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen, and now you're living in a trailer, pregnant with some stranger's baby while your son won't even speak your name." Marlene started crying. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you and Tyler, but I'm still your wife. We can work through this." Owen looked around the trailer, at the sagging furniture and the water stains on the ceiling and his wife in her dirty bathrobe. "No, we can't." He left the divorce papers on her kitchen table and walked out into the November cold. Behind him, he could hear Marlene sobbing, but he didn't look back. December brought the first snow and the final dissolution of Owen's marriage. The proceedings were mercifully brief. Marlene showed up looking like a ghost, signed the papers without argument, and walked out of the courthouse alone. Owen kept the house, the shop, and Tyler. Marlene got nothing. Not because Owen was vindictive, but because she had nothing to fight with. Tyler spent the first half of his senior year in a kind of protective bubble. The scandal had made him untouchable at school, not because people feared him, but because they felt sorry for him. Teachers gave him extra credit. Coaches patted his shoulder. Girls who'd never noticed him before started paying attention. "It's weird," Tyler told Owen one evening. "I'm more popular now than I ever was before." "Small-town sympathy," Owen said. "Enjoy it while it lasts." But Owen wasn't enjoying anything. The shop was busy. Word had gotten around that Owen Harlan was a man who'd been wronged, and other men brought their broken cars to him like offerings. But the success felt hollow. He'd won. Marlene was ruined, Kieran's college prospects were destroyed, and Tyler was thriving despite everything. Owen should have felt vindicated. Instead, he felt empty. The real end came on a cold Friday night in February. Owen was working late at the shop, rebuilding a transmission for the third time because he couldn't concentrate, when he heard the back door open. He grabbed a wrench and turned around. Kieran Rowe stood in the doorway, older and thinner than Owen remembered. His golden boy confidence was gone, replaced by something harder. I'm Mr. Harlan. Shop's closed. I'm not here for car repairs." Kieran stepped into the light, and Owen could see the changes 6 months had wrought. The kid looked like he'd aged 5 years. Stubble on his jaw, lines around his eyes, the swagger replaced by a desperate kind of intensity. "What do you want, Kieran?" "I want you to know that you destroyed my life." Owen set down the wrench. "I destroyed your life? County High kicked me off the team, lost my scholarship to state. My parents won't even look at me. Everyone in town treats me like a fucking leper." "And whose fault is that?" "Yours." Kieran's voice rose. "You could have handled this quietly. You could have divorced her and moved on. But you had to ruin everyone." Owen felt the familiar cold anger settle in his chest. "I ruined everyone." "Yeah, you did. You turned Tyler against me. You made sure everyone in town knew about the video. You destroyed Mrs. Harlan's life." "I didn't make that video, Kieran. You did." "It was supposed to be private." "Private?" Owen stepped closer. "You recorded yourself having sex with a married woman, my wife, and you thought it would stay private?" "I was 18. I was drunk. I made a mistake. You made a choice." Kieran's face twisted with rage. Yeah, well, now I'm making another choice. He pulled a gun from his jacket, a small revolver that looked like it had been stolen from someone's grandfather. Owen didn't move. After 6 months of watching his life fall apart, the sight of the gun was almost a relief. You gonna shoot me, Kieran? Maybe. And then what? You think eliminating me is going to fix your problems? I think it'll make me feel better. Owen looked at this kid, this 18-year-old boy who'd been Tyler's best friend, who'd eaten dinner at Owen's table, who'd called him Mr. Harlan with respect and affection for years. You know what the funny thing is? Owen said. I don't even blame you anymore. Kieran's hand wavered. What? You were 18, stupid and horny and 18. She was the adult. She was married. She knew better. Don't talk about her like that. Like what? Like a woman who seduced a teenager? Like a wife who cheated on her husband? Like a mother who destroyed her son's life? She loved me. Owen laughed, and the sound was bitter enough to strip paint. Kid, she didn't love you. She used you. Just like she used Willis. Just like she used whoever got her pregnant. You're lying. Am I? Where is she now, Kieran? Where's all that love? Kieran's face crumpled. She won't see me. Won't answer my calls. I went to the trailer and she told me to leave her alone. Because she's moved on, Kieran. That's what people like Marlene do. They move on to the next thing, the next person, the next drama. You were just a toy. The gun shook in Kieran's hand. Shut up. You want to shoot me? Go ahead, but it won't bring back your scholarship. It won't make your parents proud of you again. It won't make Marlene love you. I said shut up, and it sure as hell won't fix what you did to Tyler. That was the breaking point. Kieran's face twisted with rage and pain, and Owen saw the kid's finger tighten on the trigger. The shop door slammed open. Dad! Tyler burst in, took in the scene. His father facing down his former best friend, the gun wavering between them, and moved without thinking. He tackled Kieran from the side, sending them both crashing into a workbench. The gun went off, the bullet punching through the shop's tin roof with a sound like thunder. Owen lunged forward as Tyler and Kieran rolled across the concrete floor, fighting for control of the weapon. Tyler was bigger and stronger, but Kieran was desperate. The gun skittered across the floor, spinning under a tool cabinet. Stop! Owen grabbed Kieran by the jacket and hauled him off Tyler. It's over, kid. It's done. Kieran struggled for a moment, then went limp. He was crying now, ugly, desperate sobs that echoed through the garage. Tyler picked himself up, his face bloody from where Kieran had clawed at him. Dad, are you okay? I'm fine. Owen looked down at Kieran, this broken kid who'd once been like a second son to him. Call the police, Tyler. No, Kieran said. Please, I can't go to jail. Should have thought of that before you brought a gun to my shop. I wasn't going to shoot you. I wanted you to understand what you did to me. Owen knelt down beside Kieran. What I did to you? Son, I didn't make you sleep with my wife. I didn't make you record it. I didn't make you share that video with your friends. You did all that yourself. I know. Kieran's voice was barely a whisper. I know, and I hate myself for it. But I loved her, Mr. Harlan. I really loved her. No, you didn't. You loved the idea of her. You loved the thrill of getting away with something, but you didn't love her. Tyler was standing by the phone, but he hadn't dialed yet. Dad? Owen looked at his son, then back at Kieran. This kid's life was already destroyed. Jail would just put the final nail in the coffin. Get out, Owen said. Kieran looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. What? Get out of my shop. Get out of this town. Go somewhere else and try to become a better man than you are right now. I don't have anywhere to go. That's not my problem. Owen helped Kieran to his feet. The kid looked smaller somehow, diminished by his own desperation. If I ever see you again, Owen said, if you ever come near my family again, I will finish what we started here tonight. Are we clear? Kieran nodded. Yes, sir. He walked to the door, then turned back. Mr. Harlan, I really am sorry. For all of it. I know you are, kid, but sorry doesn't fix anything. Kieran left, and Owen never saw him again. Word was he'd enlisted in the army, shipped out to some base in Texas where nobody knew his story. Tyler put down the phone. You should have let me call the cops. Maybe, but ruining his life won't unruin ours. They cleaned up the shop in silence. sweeping up broken glass and righting overturned tools. It was almost midnight by the time they finished. "Dad?" Tyler said as they were locking up. "Are we going to be okay?" Owen looked at his son, 17 years old, graduating in 4 months, already accepted to 3 colleges on academic scholarships. Tyler had survived everything that had been thrown at him and emerged stronger. "Yeah, son, we're going to be fine." But Owen wasn't sure he believed it. Spring came late that year, and with it came Tyler's graduation. Owen sat in the gymnasium watching his son walk across the stage to accept his diploma and felt something like pride mixed with profound sadness. Tyler was valedictorian, had thrown himself into his studies after the scandal, using academics as a lifeline. He'd given a speech about resilience and moving forward, never mentioning his mother or Kieran or the wreckage of their family. After the ceremony, they went to dinner at the local steakhouse. Tyler ordered a beer. He was 18 now, and Owen didn't have the energy to enforce rules that seemed arbitrary after everything they'd been through. "So, what now?" Tyler asked. "You go to college. You become whatever you want to become. You live your life. What about you?" Owen cut his steak and chewed slowly. "I keep running the shop. I get older. Maybe I'll get a dog." "Dad." "What? You're only 41. Your life isn't over." Owen looked at his son, this young man who'd been forced to grow up too fast, who'd handled betrayal and humiliation with more grace than Owen had managed. "Sometimes it feels like it is. It's not. You've got to start living for yourself instead of just surviving." Tyler was right, but Owen didn't know how to start living again. For 19 years, his identity had been wrapped up in being a husband and father. Now he was just a father, and soon Tyler would be gone too. That summer, Tyler worked at the shop, learning the business in case he ever wanted to come back to it. They didn't talk much about the past. There wasn't much left to say. Marlene had given birth to a daughter in May, though nobody knew who the father was. She'd moved to another state, chasing some man she'd met online. Owen heard about it through the town gossip network, but felt nothing. Marlene Harlan had become a stranger to him, someone he'd once known, but no longer recognized. In August, Owen drove Tyler to State University. They loaded 2 duffel bags and a laptop into the truck and made the 3-hour drive in comfortable silence. Tyler's dorm room was small and sterile, with cinder block walls and fluorescent lights. His roommate was a farm kid from downstate who seemed nice enough. "You going to be okay?" Owen asked. "Yeah." Tyler hugged his father, something he hadn't done since he was a kid. "You? I'll figure it out." Owen drove home alone, the truck feeling too big and too empty. The house was quiet when he got there, full of echoes and memories he didn't want to revisit. He walked through the rooms, noting all the things that needed fixing. The loose bathroom tile, the squeaky hinge on Tyler's bedroom door, the front porch light that flickered. Small problems that would give him something to do with his hands while his mind worked through bigger issues. In the kitchen, Owen found a bottle of whiskey he'd been saving for Tyler's graduation. He poured 2 fingers into a coffee mug and sat at the table where his family had eaten dinner for 17 years. The house felt like a museum now, full of artifacts from a life that no longer existed. Photo albums, Tyler's old report cards, the wedding china Marlene had insisted on registering for but never used. Owen finished his drink and went to bed in the master bedroom he'd slept in alone for 8 months. Outside, the September wind rattled the windows, and somewhere in the distance, a train whistle echoed through the night. He'd won. Marlene was gone. Kieran was gone, and Tyler was safe. Owen had protected his son and destroyed his enemies. So why did victory feel so much like defeat? October came again, bringing with it memories of the cabin and the storm and the night that had changed everything. Owen tried not to think about it, but small-town life has a way of forcing confrontations with the past. He was at the hardware store, buying supplies to fix the front porch, when he ran into Willis Grady. The janitor looked older, more defeated if that was possible. "Owen," Willis nodded awkwardly. "Willis." They stood there for a moment, 2 men who'd been connected by the same woman's bad choices. Willis had lost his job at the school after the affair came to light. He was working construction now, Owen had heard. "How's Tyler doing?" Willis asked. "Good. He's at State." "That's good. He's a good kid." "Yeah, he is." Willis shifted his weight from foot to foot. "Owen, I want you to know—" "Don't." Owen cut him off. "Whatever you're going to say, don't. It's done." Willis nodded and walked away, and Owen was left standing in the hardware store, holding a bag of screws and feeling older than his 41 years. That evening, Owen sat on his front porch, drinking beer and watching the sun set over Oak Ridge. The town looked peaceful from his vantage point. Tree-lined streets, well-kept houses, American flags hanging limp in the still air. It was the kind of place where people were supposed to live quiet, ordinary lives, where marriages lasted and children grew up safe and secrets stayed buried. But Owen knew better now. He knew that beneath the surface of every perfect house, every happy family, every success story, there were cracks waiting to spread. His phone rang. Tyler. Hey, Dad? How's school? Good. Classes are hard, but good. I'm thinking about majoring in engineering. That's a solid choice. They talked for a few minutes about nothing important. Tyler's roommate, his classes, the food in the dining hall. Normal father-son conversation that felt like a gift after everything they'd been through. Dad? Tyler said before hanging up. I'm proud of you for how you handled everything, for keeping it together when everything was falling apart. Owen felt his throat tighten. Thanks, son. I love you. Love you too. After Tyler hung up, Owen sat on the porch until full dark, listening to the sounds of his neighbors settling in for the night. Dogs barking, televisions murmuring, garage doors opening and closing as people came home from late shifts or evening activities. Normal life, the kind of life Owen had thought he was living until a year ago. He went inside and walked through the empty house, turning off lights and checking locks. In the kitchen, he paused at the table where Marlene used to sit in the mornings, drinking coffee and checking her phone. He'd loved her. For 19 years, he'd loved her completely, trusted her absolutely, built his entire world around her happiness, and she'd thrown it all away for the thrill of sleeping with teenagers and janitors and strangers at county fairs. Owen poured himself another whiskey and sat down at the table. Outside, the wind was picking up, rattling the windows like it had that night at the cabin. He'd gotten his revenge. Marlene was living in poverty in another state, pregnant with some stranger's child. Kieran was in the army, his dreams of college football dead. Willis had lost his job and his reputation. Owen had destroyed them all and they'd deserved it. So why did he feel like the biggest loser of all? The answer came to him slowly, like dawn breaking over the mountains. Owen had spent a year focused on punishment and revenge, on making sure everyone who'd wronged him paid the price. But in the process, he'd forgotten how to live. He'd won the war, but lost himself. November brought the first snow and a phone call that changed everything. Owen was at the shop, working on a stubborn carburetor when Janet Morrison called. Owen, I've got some news about Marlene. What kind of news? She's dead. Owen set down his wrench and sat heavily on a work stool. What happened? Car accident. She was driving drunk, hit a tree outside Springdale. She was alone. Owen felt nothing. No sadness, no relief, no satisfaction. Just emptiness. What about the baby? Died with her. She was 6 months pregnant. Owen closed his eyes. When? 3 days ago. The funeral's tomorrow, but I didn't think you'd want to attend. No, I don't. Owen, there's something else. She left a letter for Tyler. Owen's blood went cold. What kind of letter? I don't know. It's sealed. Do you want me to send it to you or directly to Tyler? Owen thought about his son, settling into college life, building a future free from the wreckage of his past. Send it to me. That evening, Owen called Tyler and told him about his mother's death. Tyler was quiet for a long time. How do you feel about it? Tyler asked finally. I don't know. Empty, I guess. Yeah. Me too. They talked for an hour, working through 18 years of complicated feelings about a woman who'd been both loving mother and destructive force. Are you coming home? Owen asked. Do you need me to? Owen thought about it. No. Stay in school. There's nothing here for you to fix. The letter arrived 2 days later. Owen sat at his kitchen table, staring at the envelope with Tyler's name written in Marlene's familiar handwriting. He could throw it away. Tyler would never know it existed. After everything Marlene had put them through, what could she possibly have to say that was worth reading? But Owen found himself opening the envelope, unfolding the pages covered in his dead wife's careful script. Tyler, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and your father probably thinks I'm a coward for writing instead of calling. Maybe I am. I've been a coward about a lot of things. I know there's nothing I can say that will excuse what I did to you and your father. I destroyed our family because I was selfish and stupid and too proud to admit I was unhappy. I want you to know that none of it was your fault. You were the best thing I ever did, the only thing I got right. You deserve better than the mother you got, and I'm sorry for that. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just want you to know that I loved you, even when I was making choices that hurt you. I loved you enough to leave, so you could have a chance at a normal life without me screwing it up anymore. Your father is a good man, better than I deserved. Take care of him for me. I hope you have a beautiful life, Tyler. I hope you find someone who loves you the way you deserve to be loved, and I hope you're smart enough to hold on to them. Love always, Mom. P.S. I never told your father, but you were planned. We tried for 3 years to have you, and when you finally came, it was the happiest day of my life. I want you to know that. Owen read the letter 3 times, then folded it carefully and put it back in the envelope. He could send it to Tyler. Maybe his son deserved to hear his mother's final words, her apology, her explanation. Or he could protect Tyler from one last manipulation, one final attempt by Marlene to rewrite history and cast herself as the victim. Owen sat at the table until midnight, holding the letter and thinking about the woman he'd loved and lost and destroyed. In the end, he made the only choice he could live with. He burned the letter in the fireplace and never mentioned it to Tyler. Winter deepened, and Owen settled into a routine that felt like survival. Work at the shop, dinner alone, television until he was tired enough to sleep. Weekends were the hardest, too much time to think, too much silence to fill. Tyler called every Sunday, and Owen lived for those conversations. His son was thriving at college, making friends, dating a girl named Sarah who sounded sweet and normal. Tyler was building the life Owen had always wanted for him. "You should come visit," Tyler said one Sunday in February. "There's a parents' weekend next month." "I don't know. I'm pretty busy at the shop." "Dad, you own the shop. You can take a weekend off." "Maybe." "I'm worried about you. You sound, I don't know, tired." Owen was tired. Bone deep, soul deep tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix. "I'm fine, son." "No, you're not, and that's okay. But you need to start living again instead of just existing." After Tyler hung up, Owen walked through his empty house and tried to imagine what living might look like. Dating seemed impossible. Who would want a man with his baggage? Travel held no appeal. Hobbies felt pointless. He'd spent a year getting revenge, and now he had nothing left to do but sit in the wreckage and count the cost. Spring came again, and with it came a visitor Owen wasn't expecting. He was closing up the shop on a Thursday evening when a car pulled into the parking lot. A woman got out, mid-30s, pretty in a tired way, with dark hair and kind eyes. "Mr. Harlan? We're closed. I'm not here about a car. I'm Linda's daughter, Amanda, Marlene's niece." Owen studied her face, looking for traces of Marlene in her features. There were some, the shape of her eyes, the way she held her head. But Amanda seemed solid where Marlene had been flighty. "What can I do for you?" "I wanted to talk to you about my aunt, about what happened." "There's nothing to talk about. Please, just 5 minutes." Against his better judgment, Owen led her into the shop. Amanda looked around at the organized tools, the clean workbenches, the evidence of a man who found order in mechanical things. "I know what she did to you and Tyler," Amanda said. "Linda told me everything. And I wanted you to know that not everyone in her family thinks you're the villain in this story." Owen wiped his hands on a rag, buying time. "What do you want me to say?" "Nothing. I wanted you to know that she wasn't always like that. When I was little, before she married you, she was different, kinder, more stable. People change." "Yeah, they do. And sometimes they change for the worse." Amanda took a breath. "I think she was sick, Mr. Harlan. Mentally sick. The things she did at the end, the compulsiveness, the inability to consider consequences, that's not normal behavior. A lot of people are sick. Doesn't give them the right to destroy their families. No, it doesn't. But maybe understanding why she did it might help you find some peace." Owen set down the rag and looked at this woman who'd driven however many miles to have a conversation with a stranger about her dead aunt. "Why do you care?" "Because I knew Tyler when he was little. I used to babysit him sometimes. He was such a sweet kid, and I can't imagine what this did to him." "Tyler's fine. He's at college, doing well." "And what about you?" The question caught Owen off guard. When was the last time someone had asked about him, cared about his welfare? "I'm fine too." Amanda smiled sadly. "No, you're not. You're a man who's been wronged, who got his revenge, and now you're sitting alone, wondering why it doesn't feel better." Owen stared at her, unsettled by her accuracy. "Revenge never feels as good as we think it will," Amanda continued. "It just leaves us empty. So, what do you suggest I do? Forgive and forget?" I suggest you stop defining yourself by what she did to you. Stop letting her mistakes control your life. Amanda headed for the door, then turned back. For what it's worth, Mr. Harlan, I think you're a good man who got dealt a bad hand. You deserve better than what she gave you. After she left, Owen sat in his office for a long time, thinking about what she'd said. He'd been so focused on punishment and consequences that he'd forgotten about healing. Maybe it was time to try something different. That weekend, Owen drove to the State University to visit Tyler. He hadn't been on a college campus in 20 years, and the energy was infectious. Young people everywhere, full of hope and possibility. Tyler was waiting in the dorm lobby, grinning like he'd won the lottery. "Dad, I can't believe you came." They spent the weekend doing college things, eating in the dining hall, walking around campus, meeting Tyler's friends, and his girlfriend Sarah. She was exactly what Owen had hoped for: smart, funny, grounded, the kind of girl who would never record herself having sex with her boyfriend's father. Sunday afternoon, as Owen was getting ready to leave, Tyler walked him to the truck. "You look better," Tyler said. "Better how?" "Less angry. Less like you're carrying the weight of the world." Owen thought about Amanda's visit, about her challenge to stop letting Marlene's mistakes control his life. "I'm working on it." "Good, because I need you to be okay, Dad. I need to know that when I graduate, you'll be here and you'll be living, not just surviving." Owen hugged his son, this young man who'd been forced to grow up too fast, but had somehow emerged stronger and wiser. "I'll be here, son, and I'll be living." On the drive home, Owen made a decision. He was going to sell the house. Too many memories, too much history. He'd buy something smaller, start fresh, maybe travel a little, see parts of the country he'd never visited. Maybe even start dating eventually, though that seemed like a distant possibility. For the first time in a year, Owen Harlan began to think about the future instead of the past. The house sold quickly to a young couple with 2 small children. Owen watched them walk through the rooms where he'd raised Tyler, where he'd loved Marlene, where he'd learned that the people you trust most can hurt you deepest. "It's perfect," the wife said, standing in the kitchen where Owen had discovered his marriage was a lie. "We can see ourselves being very happy here." Owen hoped they would be. He hoped their love would last longer than his had, that their children would grow up safe and stable, that their trust in each other would never be betrayed. He moved into a small apartment across town, taking only what he needed and selling the rest. The wedding china went to Goodwill. The photo albums went in the trash. The family furniture went to whoever wanted it. Owen kept 3 things: his tools, a picture of Tyler at his high school graduation, and his father's watch. Everything else was just stuff. Artifacts from a life that no longer existed. Tyler came home for Christmas break and was shocked by how different everything looked. "It doesn't even feel like home anymore," he said, looking around the sparse apartment. "That's the point," Owen said. "Home isn't a place, Tyler. It's people, and you're here. So this is home." They spent Christmas Day together, just the 2 of them, eating Chinese takeout and watching football. It should have been sad. Their first Christmas without Marlene, without the house, without the traditions they'd built over 17 years. Instead, it felt like a beginning. "You know what?" Tyler said as they were cleaning up the empty containers. "This might be the best Christmas we've ever had." Owen looked at his son, 19 years old now, confident and strong and kind despite everything life had thrown at him. "Yeah," Owen said, "I think you might be right." That night, after Tyler had gone to bed, Owen sat by the window and looked out at the street. Snow was falling, covering the town in a blanket of white that made everything look clean and new. Somewhere out there, Kieran Rowe was serving his country, hopefully learning to be a better man. Willis Grady was working construction, trying to rebuild his reputation. Marlene was dead, taking her secrets and her sickness with her. And Owen Harlan was alive, finally ready to start living again. He thought about Amanda's words. "Stop defining yourself by what she did to you." For a year, Owen had been the wronged husband, the vengeful father, the man who'd been betrayed. Those roles had consumed him, defined him, limited him. Now, for the first time since that night at the cabin, Owen tried to imagine who he might be if he wasn't those things. He could be a man who ran a successful business, a father who'd raised a good son, someone who'd survived betrayal and come out stronger. He could be Owen Harlan, not Marlene's victim, not Tyler's protector, not anyone's enemy, just Owen. a man with a future instead of just a past. Outside, the snow continued to fall, and Owen Harlan began to plan the rest of his life. 5 years later, Owen stood in the back of a small church, watching his son marry Sarah in a ceremony that was simple and perfect. Tyler looked handsome in his rented tux, nervous and happy as he waited for his bride to walk down the aisle. Owen had given Tyler away. Not because his mother wasn't there to do it, but because Owen was the parent who'd earned the honor. He'd been the one who stayed, who fought, who protected his son when the world fell apart. After the ceremony, at the reception in the church basement, Owen danced with Sarah and listened to her tell him how lucky she felt to be part of their family. "Tyler talks about you all the time," she said, "about how you held everything together when it all went wrong." "Tyler held himself together," Owen said. "I just tried not to make it worse. You did more than that. You saved him." Owen looked across the room at his son, who was laughing with his college friends, looking happier than Owen had ever seen him. "No," Owen said. "He saved me." Later, as the reception was winding down, Tyler found Owen outside getting some air. "Thanks, Dad." "For what?" "For everything. For fighting for me. For showing me how to be a man. For not letting what happened destroy us." Owen put his arm around his son's shoulders. "You don't need to thank me for that, Tyler. That's just what fathers do." Not all of them. They stood together in the cool evening air, watching the stars appear as the sky darkened. In a few hours, Tyler and Sarah would leave for their honeymoon. Next month, they'd move to Denver, where Tyler had gotten a job with an engineering firm. Owen would miss him terribly, but he was proud of the man his son had become. Tyler had taken the worst thing that had ever happened to him and used it to build character, strength, resilience. "Are you going to be okay?" Tyler asked. "With me moving so far away?" Owen thought about his life, the shop that was thriving, the small group of friends he'd cultivated, the woman he'd been seeing for 6 months who made him laugh and challenged him to be better. "I'm going to be fine, son. You've got your own life to live now. But you're still my dad. Always will be. But Tyler, you don't need me to take care of you anymore. You haven't for a long time." Tyler nodded, understanding. "What about you? Are you happy?" Owen considered the question. Was he happy? Not in the careless, innocent way he'd been happy in his first marriage when he'd believed that love was enough and that good people didn't hurt each other. But he was content. He was building something real with Maria, the high school principal who'd replaced Roger Lane. He had work that satisfied him, a son who made him proud, a future that held possibilities instead of just obligations. "Yeah," Owen said. "I think I am." "Good. You deserve to be happy, Dad." The next morning, Owen stood in his driveway, waving goodbye as Tyler and Sarah drove away to start their new life together. Then he went inside, made coffee, and sat down to read the paper. The local section had a small item about a young man from Oak Ridge who'd been eliminated in Middle East. Owen didn't recognize the name, but he wondered if it might be Kieran Rowe under a different identity, paying the ultimate price for his attempt to remake himself. Or maybe it was just another young man from another broken family, trying to find meaning in service. Owen would never know, and that was probably for the best. Some stories don't have endings, they just fade away, becoming cautionary tales or forgotten histories. But Owen's story wasn't over. At 46, he was still young enough to build something new, to find love again, to create happiness instead of just surviving disaster. He finished his coffee, got dressed, and drove to the shop. There was work to do, a business to run, a life to live. Outside, the sun was shining, and the world was full of broken things that could be fixed. Owen Harlan was good at fixing things. It had taken him 5 years to learn that the most important thing he needed to fix was himself. But he'd figured it out eventually. And that, Owen thought as he unlocked his shop and prepared for another day, was enough.